because if you remember, when you ran for the vice presidency in
That's
March
right.
2016, you were my guest at my kapihan sa Manila Bay, which at that time was located at Luneta Hotel.
That's right.
And it was a
Yeah.
very festive activity when you went there, and so many people were there.
And
So we mark
now
our
you
March
keep
7.
now. Where does the time go? Now it's the 7th already.
Yes. Okay, sir. We're also live streaming on Facebook, sir, at the Kapiyan sa Manila Bay Facebook page, and we'll start already. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, my dear friends and colleagues at the Kapiyan sa Manila Bay. Today, we have a very special day because we are marking our 7th anniversary, and due to the pandemic, and although we're now alert level 1, we still opted to hold it via Zoom for now because I want everyone to be safe, and soon I think we can have face-to-face and physical meeting again soon, I hope. And today, because we are marking a very special anniversary, we have our featured guest, no less than the front-running presidential aspirant on the coming May 9 national and local elections, no less than the Partido Federalismo ng Pilipinas, Presidential Standard Bearer, former Senator Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr., or let's just call him BBM for short. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, and congratulations on celebrating your 7th year of the
Yes,
Kapihan.
yes, sir. And because it's the 7th, I associate you with the lucky number 7. Am I right to associate number 7 with you without being uh, so superstitious about it? I relate you with number 7.
Well, yes, it has always been a lucky number for my family, especially my father was the one who started the tradition in our family. But I guess it just worked out that way. Anyway, yes, I'm happy to have been there at the beginning and now at the 7th.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
Okay, sir. I've listened at the interview with you one-on-one with Leo Macalma at DCRH, and I will pick up from the end of your conversations with him this morning. And I heard you say you have been into blog for the past 2 years, and may I relate to you when you last guested here last September 8th or a month before the filing of certificates of candidacy, because at that time you're still weighing things whether to run or not as president. So I've got the impression that you really have a head start already on Facebook, I mean, the social media. And mentioned a while ago that you have been in blogging for the past 2 years. And I guess that's also one of the reasons why you have been the front runner in this mock polls.
Well, I think it definitely had played a part because especially because of the pandemic. Napunta, well, much of our activities, whatever it is, with family, with work, with everything, really went to the internet. And especially pag political commentary, talagang it went to social media. And that happened not only in the Philippines, that happened everywhere. And now we know now exactly what are the what is the importance of social media in every aspect of our life. And politics is one of them, and especially now that we're in the middle of a campaign, and we're coming up. We have, I believe, 54 days until the election. So, the discussion is going to be continued not only in trad media, although that's happening as well, but social media has become such an important part because for the 2 years that we were locked down, not lockdown, 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 really all we could use was social media. That's why it became very, very important. And yes, in a sense, I did have a head start because we tried to develop, because traditional media sometimes was a little more difficult, especially in those times. And social media was really the only outlet for any commentary that I wanted to make. It really started because of the pandemic. Uh, and that's when I started. Previous to that, I was just blogging, and it wasn't really any particular subject. But when I got very worried, because when I started to feel better, when after I got COVID, I could see all of the foolishness that was being put on social media, the anti-science things and all of this, and that worried me very much. And that's when I started to make commentaries and say, don't believe this this person who nobody ever heard of. It. Listen to somebody who has spent their life researching this and all of that. And doon nag-start talaga yan. So that's how my presence, I guess, on social media really began.
And at that time, when you were, my guess, last September 8th, you were in fact, and many of your supporters were complaining they were blocked in Facebook, including yours, di ba, sir? May problema ka sa Facebook noon? Take down nila.
That's right. Well, may mga ganun. Nagkakaganon ng minsan. But I think we've gotten over that. And there's a better policy now with Facebook that they are more, how do we say, they examine it more deeply than just listening to complaints of certain people. Kasi hindi ba, yun ang ginagawa nila, basta magrereklamo na marami. Sasabihin ng Facebook, teka, titigil muna natin yan, tingnan muna natin yung gano'n. Nagbago. Because now, anyway, because naturally, that's not very useful. But anyway, it's become I've done 202 vlogs now, 202. And we talk about agri, we talk about tourism, we talk about traffic, of course, the pandemic, mga baha, OFW, disaster, dami ng pag-usapan. And that's the beauty of social media. And seeing the tech, and might as well take advantage of it.
Okay, and I'm very glad that you have established presence in the social media. And Ana Tabunda, the Pulse Asia Executive Director, I read a story about her at the ANC when she was interviewed. What is it that why is it that you have been the front running? Because you have captured the people's imagination.
Well, I think it's to do with the message. I think I saw the same interview that you're talking about.
Yes.
And they talked, the people from Pulse Asia were saying that there is a very distinct message in what we've been doing. And I think that's the important part. And not only that there is a distinct message, but also that the message is something that the people understand. And immediately, because as I always say, it's in the culture of the Filipino. It's in the heart of every Filipino to be a good citizen, to be a good neighbor, to be a good and to look after to help your mga kapwa Filipino mo. And that is the message of the unity and pagkakaisa. And so that's I think what has reverberated with our people, and the people, I think it's very easy to understand that no matter how many very beautiful plans we may have for recovery, for the economy, for getting away from the pandemic, getting our jobs, getting our vaccinations, all of this, whatever our plans are, if we are busy fighting one another and arguing with one another and trying to downgrade one another, then none of these plans will come to fruition. So that's what I think, that people understand that because they see it in their daily lives, that you have to work together. And we need everybody's help. We're in a tough place.
Down.
Not only work hard, but work smart. We have to really bring all of the elements together. We need everybody's help.
Okay. I'm gonna take that up with you on the BBM Sara UNITEAM. Running under that UNITEAM platform of government, how in concrete terms will the BBM presidency carry this out in the first 100 days of his administration?
Well, I don't know why we have arbitrarily said that 100 days, something has happened
Yes,
in 100 days.
from
Well,
Denmark.
yeah, there's no special quality to the first 100 days. But never mind, if that's the question. I think the first 100 days should be spent filling positions in government with brilliant people, the best people you can find, the best people for that particular job. If it's whatever it is, if it is in the bureaucracy, if it is in a department of one of the cabinet departments, we have to find the people who know that job, who have been working at it, maybe in the private sector, maybe in the public sector, but those who have gained a great deal of expertise and can bring that expertise to bear on that job. Because again, no matter how beautiful your plans are, no matter how thorough and how well thought out, if you put an idiot there to run it, nothing will happen, right? So you have to find some really good people who understand what you're trying to do, who agree with you on the method with which you do it, who understand the bureaucracy. Making the bureaucracy work for you is not a small thing. It is a very big thing. And it's all very well, again, to have beautiful plans, and then you come into government and you do not know who to call, what to do, what is the agency, what's the department, how is the interaction, all of these things. And even the personalities, you have to know the personalities. Sometimes it comes down to personality.
Yes.
It's not, hindi ba, kung minsan, hindi magkasundo yung dalawa, hindi wag mong pipilitin, hindi ba? Di mapalitan mo, put somebody else there para at least something will happen. So the first priority, I don't know if it's, I hope to do it in less than 100 days. If I ever head the next administration, I hope that to do it in less than 100 days. But the most important part is to get started on the right foot, is to have the right people, and the right people who are very competent, in fact better than competent, who are excellent at their job. And with an understanding on how you're going to do it, who agree that this is what needs to be done. This is our policy. That is a good policy. And that is our policy, and that they will implement it, they will execute it. They know how to do it. That's the important thing. That's not easy. It's not easy. Because, for example, the most successful people generally are in the private sector.
Yes.
And if they're in the private sector, they're doing very well. They're successful because they're good. They're successful. They're making a good deal. They're making a good living. And now you're going to ask them to sacrifice all of that and come into government. And they don't need it. Every day somebody's criticizing them. Everybody's doing this kind. So what you have to provide is that political space for them to do their work. And so that's what you have to guarantee them, and that the full support of what you're asking them to do, that you will support them fully. So it is first finding the people is going to be getting government, and marami tayong career na nasa gobyerno, na nasa bureaucracy, who are very, very good. Mga political appointees who really have not been working at that job for a long time and have not the same amount of expertise as yung mga career, what we call the career workers in those areas. The people who have been in those departments for many years and have been able to show their competence and their excellence and their things. Sila hindi lang nagmi. That's why I think I'm confident that we have people who will be the structure, the support, and the plan. Well, we have to have a plan. So we form that plan. Now this can all be done beforehand, in the first few days, in the first few weeks.
Hindi ko alam kung, sir, nag-internet trouble ka ba? O sa kanya, no? Sir, may internet trouble? Sa kanila, no?
Then allow
Can you
people
repeat?
to...
Sir, can you repeat? Kasi medyo nag-internet trouble ka. Maganda yung sinasabi mo, you will respect the career people, the career service people.
Oh, I was saying that many of the people that you would need, that are very good at the jobs that you need for them to do, are already in government. Yung mga department natin, marami na ako nakilala dyan na talagang napakagaling. At habang buhay sila nagtatrabaho sa whatever department it is, and they have gained an expertise that a political appointee does not have. And so let's look to them. Let's look to them. And I think the basis should really be competence and expertise and capability, because it's not enough to be expert if you do not know how to run the department, or you do not know how to run the agency. You do not know how to deal with the bureaucracy. All of these things. But those who are already in government, marunong na yan eh.
Yes.
Hindi mo kailangan turuan.
Yes.
They've been working with the same people for 20, 30 years. So they know how to deal with everything. And that for me is the most important part. So let's look to them. Mm-mm.
They must start hit the ground running baga, di ba, sir? They must hit the ground running. May internet trouble tayo, sir. Sir, you are may internet trouble. Can your technical experts there, yan. Baka you might need to shift to another internet. Nasa Metro Manila ka naman, ba, sir?
I'm sorry?
Nasa Metro Manila ka naman, bakit meron tayong internet trouble?
I'm having a great deal of internet trouble because the internet here has been, and let's talk about the internet. That's one thing that we really need to fix. Look at this. This is what we're doing here is quite important, and then we're having trouble with the internet. That's something that we need to attend to. And I've spoken already to so many people about it, and there are ways. There's a way to do it. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. I always say, if South Korea can do it, that they are the fastest, most well-connected, with the biggest bandwidth for consumers, why can we not just do what they did? See what system they put into place. And ang dami namang magaling na Pinoy para sa IT. Ang daming magaling na Pinoy, kayang-kaya nila yan. I don't know, we should really get that, we should really start to think very hard about. Once again, the people, that yung marunong at saka handang tumulong.
Yes. Pero sir, di ba sinasabi, you can never say no to the president if you are offered a post. Pero ang problema talaga, di ba, nabanggit mo nga, they have well-paying job, they are making good a living. So how can you convince them to join your administration?
Well, we asked because we need them, and say that I need you, and there's a lot of good that you can do. And since you have already shown you are successful, and it is a sacrifice. Public service is a sacrifice.
Yes.
And we ask you to make that sacrifice for our people. And those who are like-minded in that sense, that are willing to willing to serve the public, despite the sacrifices that they might have to make, and even their families might have to make. Those are the people that you want in your government.
Yes. Given the next administration takes over after a hotly contested presidential elections, will the BBM presidency extend the hands of unity and reconciliation with its most bitter rivals and political enemies?
Well, of course. As far as I'm concerned, when the election is done, the election is done. It's time to get to work. And that's when for me, that's the campaign is the campaign, and you go out and you do the things that you do for the campaign. But the real work begins if you win. And so that's when you have to really buckle down and think very, very hard about what you're going to do. And again, I go back again to competence. I will not ask for somebody to join the government because they were in opposition. Neither will I exclude them from the list of possible people who can join because they were in opposition. Again, I go back to expertise, ability, willingness to work for the government, competence in making the government work, knowing how the bureaucracy works. In other words, the people who can get the job done. And I learned this lesson very well from my father because I remember watching from the sidelines. Hindi ako involved, bata pa ako noon, I was still a student then. But I would watch from the sidelines and yung mga advisor niya, may lalapit sa kanya, "Sir, meron akong nakilala, itong batang ito, magaling ito, ganito, ganyan. They've been, ito yung nagawa niya, they've been working in this place, and you know, they've been very successful and has some good ideas." And yun lamang, hindi natin kasama ito nung eleksyon. Linabanan tayo nito sa eleksyon. And I always remember my father would say, "Hindi bale, we'll meet with him. Ako na makipag-usap sa kanya." And always what he say is pare-pareho naman ang gusto natin. Gusto nating tulungan ng bansa. And here's a very good opportunity for you to help. And we need your help. And if you're a lover of the Philippines and you love your country and you love your people, then this is a chance for you to show, to manifest that, and to make it concrete. And with some effective policies, with some effective program that will actually change people's lives for the better.
Sir, speaking of your late father, would the once mighty KBL party of your late father be revived to become the next ruling administration party under BBM presidency?
I think the KBL has played its part. It will continue to play its part in the future. It is so I don't think there's need to go. There's no that would be going back in time, and there's no point to do that. We're in a different place. The politics is different now. The world is different. The Philippines is different. So the what its function was for my father in my father's time, I do not know if it necessarily will apply to the next administration.
What would the BBM presidency discontinue among policy directions of the Duterte administration that do not conform with the UNITEAM platform?
What will we discontinue, if ever? I don't know. I'd rather talk about what we would continue. And that would really come to the build program. As you know, infrastructure was also a main plank in my father's platform, and that is something that we agree with fully. As we have been going around, actually in the campaign, kitang-kita mo talaga, ang daming mga ginagawa, ang daming at makikita mo talaga, you know already na pag natapos ito, ang ganda nito dahil nabuksan yung ibang lugar na never pa nagkaroon ng economic activity. Meron tayong bagong farm to market road na maibababa na nila yung produkto sa palengke, sa merkado. All of these things that you can see that infrastructure brings. But going back again to the internet, that has included already digital infrastructure.
Yes.
That's included when we talk about infrastructure, isama na natin yon. I think the build is something that really needs to be continued. Now, the war against drugs has been controversial, but the problem continues to exist. I suppose the focus of the next administration might be we've seen that enforcement only we've taken enforcement as far as we know how, as far as we can. We have to talk about prevention also, the talking to children, talking to kids in schools, and explaining to them that, this world, this life of drugs and drug abuse is not going to get you anywhere. It will destroy your life, it will destroy your family, etc., etc. Teach them the dangers and the perils of going down that road. Pag meron talagang na-addict na, dapat may mga rehab naman tayo. We focus also on cure. And on the cure, the rehab centers, we should have good rehab centers. We should have one per region, so that all of the people that need help to get out of their to live or to get out of their addiction have that help provided. And I think even on the enforcement side, we can be more focused in our implementation of the law, in our enforcement rather of the law. And that I think should be more focused and go for the big guys. Don't go for the that's not the best use of our resources. You know, the guy who's making 100 pesos a day from selling weed. That's not the priority. The priority is the guy who's buying politicians, who is killing people, who is changing making the community a dangerous place. Yun ang kailangan nating habulin.
The big fish baga.
The focus, I think, might shift to there.
So big fish.
The big fish. There you go, the big fish. That I think is the probably a shift that we can do, because, as I said, we've taken enforcement as far as we can.
Yes, I will give you an example. Just yesterday, almost 1 ton of shabu were seized in a checkpoint from going to Taytay, coming from Quezon, contained in 3 vans. And you can just imagine, I thought we had no more shabu being produced here, and the police authorities kept saying these were smuggled in. So the primary source of our drugs, especially shabu, coming from abroad, notably in China. So how would you address that particular problem?
Well, that is an effect of the anti-drug war of President Duterte. There used to be nagluluto na sila dito sa Pilipinas noon eh. Nabawasan talaga 'yon. And so that is credible, that it's becoming important. We have to work more closely with the international agencies and international police, the Interpol, with our neighbors in ASEAN. Even if we say that the main source is China, then we talk to the Chinese and say, you have to help us, because what's happening is coming from your place, and it's coming to us, and it's destroying the lives of our young people. So I think a more international approach, because everything now is global. So a more international approach is where we've done a good job of eliminating, or almost completely eliminating, the labs, or whatever you want to call them, in the for producing methamphetamine here in the Philippines. So kailangan talaga natin tutukan. But again, if you go after the big guys, yun naman ang nag-i-import eh.
Yes.
So if you put their operations, if you shut down their operations, and shut down their whole network, then nobody will import. Yes. Somebody will try to take their place, pero yung malalaki that have a well-established network with the international shabu suppliers and the local distribution, if you can shut that down, then that will look after a large percentage of that problem.
Okay. What would the BBM presidency continue from among the priority legislative agenda that failed to get through the 18th Congress? Will this include the revival of charter change move?
The one thing that stands out is yung contractualization na we tried to push, and despite the fact that it was the president's priority also, the law was written in purely that's why he vetoed it. So maybe we can go back to that and have a look and see what were the stumbling blocks kung bakit binito ng presidente. And we have an idea already about how to do that. So that's one thing. As to the charter change, marami talagang dapat pag-usapan tungkol sa constitutional amendments. There are many things that we can talk about that, but I don't know if that's his priority right now. The priority right now is to get our people completely and totally vaccinated and to get everybody back to work. That's the main thing. Kasi pag natural naman, if you look really at the statistics, the concern of our people, when you talk about COVID, the concern is not if they're going to get sick. The concern is I have no job, I have no money.
Yes.
That's really what they worry about. And then when they go out and they say, well, lockdown, tapos lalabas. Sasabihin, huwag kang lalabas, magkakasakit ka. Hindi na bali magkasakit, wala akong pera, wala akong ipakain sa pamilya ko. And that's the situation we're in now. And that's the first thing that we have to deal with. We have to create jobs. We have to create jobs. You know, this, not only do we have a high unemployment rate simply because of COVID, we also have the 700,000 or so na repatriate na OFWs na forcibly repatriated, they were forced to come home dahil nawala yung trabaho nila.
Yes.
And then we graduate 1.2 million students every year. So that comes around 2 million jobs every year, new jobs that we have to find. And so that should be the main focus. That's the main focus. Tapusin natin ang vaccination rollout. I think we're doing a fairly good job there. The LGUs have done a fine job down to the barangay level, especially since we now have supply. Before the problem was supply. Now, okay na. Maraming, we're already giving booster shots. Even the younger, the kids, nakakakuha na ng vaccine. So, patuloy natin yan. And then, no more lockdown. Huwag na tayo mag-lockdown. No more lockdowns.
Alert zero na. Alert level 0 na. When you come to office.
Sana. If we do a good job in the vaccination, if we do a good job in taking care of those who get sick, palagay ko papunta na tayo doon eh. And we see kasi, we see in other countries, nakikita ko like example, you know, the UK has fewer people than the Philippines. But they were registering 30,000 new cases. Ito yung Omicron, 30,000, 32,000 every day. Pero wala silang binabago. Kahit di kayo mag-mask, pumunta kayo sa football, manood kayo ng football, sa concert, mag-inuman kayo sa pub. Wala silang because they've all been vaccinated. And kung magkasakit man sila, take an aspirin and then rest for 2 days, pwede na yan. In fact, there's another where they say healthcare workers, frontliners, who test positive but are asymptomatic can go to work. So sana maabot na natin yan. That's what I think we should reach. If we get to that point, then we can really see that the economy will start to reemerge, will start to revitalize, and the main concern right now is for people to have money in their pockets, to be able to pay for the things they need, to be able to feed the families. It's really back to basics.
Yes,
I really see that we're really back to basics because the pandemic really made it very clear where the weaknesses are.
Yes,
and they were in things like food supply. They were in things like hospitals. They were in things like medical supplies. They were in areas like the supply chain. All of these things that are basic to the running of a vibrant economy were seen to be weak.
Yeah,
so we have
mean the
public
health system. The public health system.
The public health system, because I was studying it and I was thinking, I was surprised that no big hospitals have been built since 1985.
What?
None. The last ones were in-upgrade yung PGH. And then the last...
during your mother's time, no? Your mother's time, heart center,
that's right.
child medical center.
Yeah, that's because and then tinayo yung kidney center, heart center, lung center, children's hospital. Napakinabangan natin yan nung pandemic.
Yes.
So we need more of that. But also, I have an idea. This is something that I experienced when I was governor, is that we need to bring healthcare. Okay, it's important that we have tertiary care, yung talagang malalaking hospital, 500 beds, 300 beds, yung malaking ganyan. Then we need, of course, secondary and the primary care. But I think what we need to do is bring healthcare down to the grassroots. And the method that we have seen that seems to work are RHUs, the rural health units.
Okay.
A rural health unit is a small clinic, not so small, whatever, it's a clinic where binibisita ng doktor yan 2-3 times a week. May nurse, may midwife. Because the 80% of the complaints that patients bring when they go to hospital, 80% are 3 things lang. Upper respiratory, lower GI, and buntis, pregnancy. So,
Yes.
that can be taken care of at nabalian, nasugatan,
Yes.
kailangan itahi. Yung mga ganon, noon nagkalagnat o hinika, yung mga ganon, kaya dun sa RHU yan eh. Hindi mo kailangan ng malalaking ospital.
Yes, pero ang problema, yung salary ng mga healthcare workers natin, benefits, that's what been bugging the government.
That's why I was thinking that we'll return to the program where we provide scholarships for doctors and nurses and med techs. And those scholarships, ang pambayad nila ay pagka nag-graduate na sila, doktor na sila, nurse na sila, huwag muna silang aalis ng Pilipinas. And yun ang pambayad nila. Na i-assign sila doon sa malalayo, doon sa mga lugar na hindi na nakakita ng doktor ng ilang taon na, dentista, all of the
Pero sir,
healthcare.
Future yon. Paano yung existing ngayon na nandoon na sila? Yan ang complaint nila, napakababa ng kailang sweldo compared to the private.
Well, now you're talking again, you're going now to the local government. That's why it was problematic that the healthcare was devolved to the local.
Yes.
That's the cause of that. Hindi kaya ng LGU na makapagbayad. I am ashamed to say to you how much the basic pay of our doctors are in the provincial hospitals.
Yes.
Because and that's it has become so bad that many of our in Ilocos, many of our doctors nag-nursing para makapasok sa states. Para makapasok sa states as a nurse. Pero doktor sila.
Yeah.
Pero kasi may job opportunities, madali silang pumasok as nurse. Then, pag nandun na sila, they can take the board exams there, maging doktor ulit sila doon. That's one of the phenomenon that's happening. Because you're competing in a labor market. Now, how can you tell a doctor? How can you tell a nurse? Sasabihin, you stay in the Philippines. Ito lang ang sweldo mo. O nasa pay grade ka, pay grade 19, pay grade 20. Parang principal ng eskwelahan. Okay. Ngayon, sasabihin ng isang hospital sa abroad, sasabihin, starting pay mo $5,000, entry level, $5,000 a month. How do you compete with that? And the only way that I can see to compete with that is yung what the Chinese call, ginaya natin sa China, barefoot doctors. The doctors who we help become doctors will put in their time going to very remote places. Kaya barefoot doctor ang tawag. Going to very remote places. Kung pwede, balikan nila yung kanilang community where they live. So they spend some time there, put in their service. Yun ang pambayad nila sa scholarship nila. So that's how I think it could work.
Okay. Another uniformed personnel of the government, let's talk about them. How would the BBM presidency protect its hold over the AFP and PNP that once renounced their loyalty to the flag and constitution to support power grab, if not coup plot, like what happened to your late father?
Well, I think it's the question. Well, in that time there were many factors involved, and it wasn't necessarily a local phenomenon. There were many forces coming from outside of the country. at that time. Although at this time, I think the AFP is in pretty good shape. They are well motivated. They're well supported. They know very well, and the AFP is very clear what their duties are and what their function is within the society, within our society now. When I talk to some of the officers and the men of the AFP, they feel that they have been well supported by the government, and that is why they are very willing and able to do their jobs. So that's on the AFP side. On the police side, we have to have a look at how, again, we're back to the drug lords. Because yan talagang sumira sa PNP. Dahil ang laking pera eh. Ang laking pera.
Weteng also.
Yung PNP, it's squatter yan eh. Yung iba sa PNP squatter, it's pathetic. It's a horrible situation that they don't even have their own homes. Now, bibigyan mo ng malaking pera, sabi mo, gawin mo ito para sa atin, gagawin nila yun. It's a matter of survival in some cases, di ba? Now, when we're talking about generals, shabu generals, ibang usapan yan. Walang ginawa yan, kundi kung basta kumita lang. So that's a different story. So again, it's a question of I think it's a question of training. There seems to be a problem since the officers of the PNP no longer come from the PMA. Because the PMA, the discipline in the PMA and the honor system in the PNA was very rigid and very robust. Whereas maybe in the PNPA, the academy now, those elements are not being stressed as much as they do in the academy. So, yeah, tingnan natin yan. That's one aspect of it. But I think even more importantly, yung buhay ng mga pulis. Na kaya nga, isipin niyo, pulis ninyo squatter. Hindi ba? Walang bahay. Nag-i-squat lang yan. Hindi, paano naman yan? Paano niya gagawin yung trabaho niya? Na kailangan niyang isipin, paano niya pakakainin yung pamilya niya? Saan sila titira? Pwede silang paalisin anytime. You know, these are you have to, it's the same as teachers. We have to support the teachers if we want a good educational system. Because if they're worried about their families, they cannot do their jobs. They're worried about their families, like you and I, anybody. I cannot do my job properly if I'm worried that my family has no home, that they will not eat tomorrow, that they cannot pay for the kuryente, they cannot pay for the water. You know, you have to put them you have to give them, again, I talk about political space, you have to give them that space that they can do their job. But if all they're worried about is where the next meal is coming from, then that's all they're worried about, not their job.
Okay. Sir, ang good news, kagabi, nabasa ko, and today I also read the manifesto of support of at least the retired generals, Medal of Valor officers, and many others na nagpirma ng manifesto of your support, like former AFP Chief of Staff Roy Simatu, who was one TNR Secretary, Benjamin Defensor Jr., Dionisio Santiago, Filemon Santos, and former PNP Chief General Abinero Rason Jr. What's your take on that?
Well, these are good commanders, and they know what their people need, and they have shown success in their fields and in their time in the military. And I think that there has always been a natural alliance because my father was a soldier. I was in the military for a while. So I think they feel that I will understand the life of a soldier. I will understand. And in all my life, even as a congressman, as governor, as senator, I have always been terribly supportive of the military because alam ko yung buhay ng sundalo. Hindi madali ang buhay ng sundalo. And we always have to remember that soldiers are the only members of our society whose social contract includes risking life and limb to protect the state. No other segment of society has that in their social contract with government. with the state. So they are a special breed, and that should be recognized. It has been recognized by the Duterte government, and I think that expression of support from these very well respected commanders is hope that we will continue to recognize the hard work that we put them to, and that what they need to be able to accomplish their mission, which is what the soldiers do.
You said you are a reserve officer. What's your rank, sir?
Wala na. I was a reservist, but I left the 86. I was taken off the rolls. I've been, yeah.
Anyway, sir.
No, I guess Odash 11. I still remember my serial number.
Really? What's your serial number?
Yeah. Anyway, that I think is that's what I think is the that is what I think that's behind that expression of support.
Okay, very good.
I will recognize if I become president. That I will recognize the militaries, the life of the soldiers, what they need. Kasi mahirap naman yung pinapagawa natin sa kanila. Sumabak kayo dyan, makipaglaban kayo dyan. Kailangan naman suportahan natin. And then back also to the families that they have a decent way, they have a decent life, that they have what they need to survive. Yes,
and I know you made a public declaration so many times in the past that you won't resort to any martial law as long as you can prevent it. So this should not put fear in the hearts of people, na raising the specter of you as using the military establishment to extend
martial law is necessary when there's war.
Yes.
So if we are not at war, and I hope we will not get into a war, then there's no need to talk about martial law or to resort to martial law.
Yes. Okay. And that's been very well said, even repeatedly in the past. How would the BBM presidency gain public support and sympathy amid the revived issues of ill-gotten wealth against your late father, sir? And even against you, yung tax evasion rate cases daw na unpaid estate taxes, the revive ni Mayor Demagoso na sumulat pa sa PCGG, getting the opinion, getting their affirmation na the Supreme Court already ruled that you owe the government on estate taxes and balloon and interest rates.
Well, there's a lot of fake news involved there. Let's leave it to the lawyers to discuss it, because yung mga the so-called facts that they quote are not facts at all. They are just presumption. They are not familiar with the cases, or they choose not to be familiar with the cases. So yeah, it's in the courts. In my case, whatever the courts order me to do, I will do.
Okay. This is a question from Edu Punay, our reporter covering your campaign, sir. They say elections are a referendum of an administration or the previous election. And given that you pursued the electoral protest versus Leni Robredo up to the end, Vice President Leni Robredo, do you consider this coming presidential election as a referendum to your vice presidential face-off with VP Leni in 2016?
Absolutely not. One thing has nothing to do with the other. This election is going to decide the future of our country, not some political issue. This election might be the most important election in our lifetimes, all of us. And because there has been a tectonic shift, let's use that word, a tectonic shift in the way the world works after the pandemic. And this election will decide how we approach and how we position ourselves to get the best out of the tectonic shift, or to how to mitigate the problems of the tectonic shift, or how to take full advantage, or how to be able to adjust properly to the changes that we are seeing. So that's what this election is about for me. That's what this election is about for me. Too much politics. Enough na. It's time to get to work. enough with the political. Tapos na, we'll do the political until May 9. Then finish na. Then gawin na natin yung trabaho natin. Ang daming naghihirap, ang daming nangangailangan ng tulong. Ba't pa natin pinag-uusapan yung mga ganyan? Kaya unity, tama na yan. Pag-aawayin mo pa kami, hindi na, ayaw makipag-away. Gusto kong mag-ayusin ito para pagandahin natin yung buhay ng tao. So no, it has nothing to do with any of that.
Yes. So that means when you filed your COC, you ended already your motion for reconsideration or appeals to the theft on your BP race. It's a given already that you have given that up.
I don't know that it has, but I think it's becoming moot.
Yes.
Because whatever happens is if you take office, the defensor doctrine, I think it's become to be called. Then all these protests and will become moot, and so that's as far as I know, that's the legal situation. To tell you the truth, I haven't looked at it in a while. So, but I think that's where we stand now.
Kasi ang aking recollection naman, once you file your COC, that means you have given up your protest.
Akala ko rin, pero mukhang hindi. It's when you take your oath.
Okay. That's the point of reckoning. Okay, from Neil Mercado of Inquirer, just to update you, sir, para proper context. Si Presidente Duterte kanina, nag-live, retake yung kanyang kagabing talk to the people. And he approved the recommendation of the Department of Finance that he cannot suspend the excise tax of oil products and that they will just resort to the 200 million peso monthly ayuda to poor Filipino households instead of suspending excise tax.
Yeah.
He wants to get your reaction to that. Sir.
Well, I happen to agree that the excise taxes should still be collected. However, I do not agree because yung mga system of coupons and then ayuda, hindi kung minsan, everybody uses oil-related, oil itself, gasoline, crudo, everybody uses that. Everybody. So how do you choose kung saan pupunta yung ayuda? Dito ba o diyan? Maraming naiiwanan, maraming nabibigyan na hindi nangangailangan, maraming na hindi nabibigyan na talagang nangangailangan. So it's imperfect. Necessarily, we'll never get it perfect. So it's imperfect. So my approach would be to continue to collect the excise tax, but provide an oil subsidy so that anybody who is using oil-related products, which is basically everybody, will feel the effect. Not only yung nasa listahan. Na listahan na hindi naman kuminsan ay hindi kumpleto, hindi tama, whatever. Tao lang ang gumawa niyan, hindi magiging perfect talaga yan. Pero kung gawin nating oil subsidy, in other words, kung bumibili tayo ng langis, ng isang, whatever the price is, $100, whatever it is then some of that increase will be covered by the oil subsidy. So that kung may increase man na umabot pa sa tao, ay maliit na lang. At dahan-dahanin natin. At yun ang palagay ko support. At mararamdaman niya ng lahat ng tao. Hindi lamang yung nakalista dun sa ayuda, sa IX or whatever. That's my thinking there.
Okay. This is from Dreo Calonzo of Bloomberg. Who do you get economic advice from? What's your top economic agenda?
Jobs. We must create jobs. But kasama na rin yan not only to strengthen the various sectors of the economy. We have to pick and choose because wala namang may nangungutang na nga tayo. We don't have that. We cannot say that we have so much funding that we can push. We can use it everywhere. We have to prioritize, and there are many areas that we need to prioritize. But basically, we want to, in the short term, we need to do everything we can do to create jobs. Number one, I think I've laid out some of the plans and some of the ideas that I have. Now, in the long term, we have to, again, what I was talking about earlier, go back to basics. Dahil meron tayong basic weaknesses in our economy. And And one of the main areas is, balik na naman ako sa agriculture. I know I talk a lot about it, but I really feel that a solid agricultural base is the foundation of a solid economy. You cannot industrialize without strategic food supply. And so we have to get from where we are now to what I call a sovereign food supply. In other words, tayo lang, kompleto na tayo na kahit ano pang mangyari, nagka-pandemic ulit, natigil lahat ng shipment, ng bigas, ganyan, lahat yan, sapat naman ang ating pagkain. So, that's the very beginning. That's the very start. And after that, we have to begin to look at the problems with energy, the high price, the high cost of energy, not only for businesses and investors, but also for consumers. But now we've been hit with this new development where Russia has entered into Ukraine, which is with the concomitant rise in fuel prices, that we really have to find a way around. Laking problema talaga. To see that yung nagpapasada nga, sabi nila, hindi na kami lalabas dahil hindi wala namang kumikita. Sabi na, lugi ka na, pagod ka pa.
Yeah.
Bakit pa? Oo. So, those are the areas that we need to fix. So, but the first priority is still that.
Digital infrastructure, yung third telco. We have only 3 telcos. Meron pang nagsasabing pang 4 telco, pero wala namang epekto.
Parang nga mula pa tayo nakikitang pagbabago eh. And again, it's something because it's a purely technological problem. We can look to other people. Don't have to reinvent the wheel. The technology is improving so rapidly. It's just a case of us to, political will and say, look, this is what we are going to do. So we have to really look at the system and examine the suggestion that we have, the government owns the actual backbone of the internet system in the country. So I don't know if that's a suggestion that may work. We'll see. We'll have to see it further. But again, kumbaga sa examen, kailangan talaga natin tignan lahat. We cannot not just look at one company or one. We have to look at what everybody else is doing, because internet is already is part of the global system. What we have gotten started are the data centers. I've spoken to 3 groups already who are willing to put up data centers, have started to put up data centers in the Philippines. That will help our internet situation. Because yung data center, halimbawa pag-click mo, pag-enter mo na kahit na anong, nag-Google ka, nag-enter ka, pupunta pa sa Singapore yun eh. Pupunta pa sa Hong Kong. Bago babalik dito kasi nandun yung data center. Kung yung data center nasa Laguna o nasa Davao, or di ba, mas mabilis. So that will help. But we still need to improve the bandwidth. We still have to improve the coverage. 63% pa lang ang coverage natin. So about 38% of our people don't use the internet. That's too high. That number is too high.
Okay. Who do you get the economic advice from, sir?
Who are?
Who do you get economic advice from? Tanong ni Dreo.
Gosh, anybody and everybody that I talk to that has an idea. Yung mga respetado natin, na mga advisor, both in the private and the public sector. So, syempre, everyone has very many ideas. And the reason that I choose to talk to everyone is really so that you can see, pag meron talagang common areas na sinasabi, lahat, pati private sinasabi, energy is an example. Kailangan ayusin natin yung sa energy. Pag sinabi sa public sector, yan pa rin. Yan talaga, problema talaga yan. Then again, the question of jobs and the question of all of the systems and some of the policies, the financial policies that we've been undertaking, maybe need to be rethought. because we are in a different situation now. We are hopefully emerging slowly from the pandemic. And we have to look to the rest of the world because, again, everything is global, the economy especially. We have to look to the rest of the world, where the rest of the world is headed and where the Philippines should be. That's why we have to have a vision of where the Philippines should be in 5 years, where the Philippines should be in 10 years. Because some of the basic elements that we have to put in place will not really happen immediately. May mga long-term tayo kailangan gawin. And infrastructure, power, all of these things still come to mind. Even the education, even the areas, you have to really separate between the short term, the immediate need of people. Like we have maliwanag na maliwanag. People, why is the ayuda so important? Why is the tupad and AIC so important? Because this is life and death for people. Pag nakatanggap sila ng 3,000, buhay na naman sila. Ganun ang buhay ngayon. That's how close they are to subsistence level. Kaya kailangan yung short term na yan, na magkaroon ng pera ang tao. Alam naman ng tao na hindi naman maaari na habang buhay, AIX na tupad at ang aasahan nila. At hindi tamad ang Pilipino. Ang Pilipino, they like to work for their money. They don't want to be receiving handouts para silang naglilimos, hindi ba? Hindi wala sa ugali natin 'yan. Yes. So we have to find it's back to that. It's back to the jobs.
Okay, the next question of Dreo Calonso Bloomberg, how will you navigate any alliance with the US?
I think we will continue to, we have a very special relationship with the United States. It's a relationship that has gone back over 100 years, and it has.
Sir, your internet trouble again.
We continue with that idea in mind, that the United States has been an ally for us, an ally to us, has done many things and can do many things to help the Philippines. So on that basis, now, if we're talking about the conflicts now in our area between the United States and China, that's a different question. We have to navigate, to use the word, really I always say is that what we just always need to remember is what is in the national interest. And again, I reject the idea that we have to be like during the Cold War, where nakaalay ka dito, nakaalay ka doon ka lang. Hindi ka. Tayo, we have to remember ang alliance natin is with the Philippines. Doon natin isipin ano bang ang interest ng Pilipinas. But in essence, you want to be friends with anyone. You don't want to be fighting with anybody. There will be conflicts between the superpowers, like now, the United States, China, Russia. But I always say this, we are a very small player amongst these giants in terms of geopolitics. I always say, if they sneeze at the same time, we disappear from the map. So that's the precarious situation that we are in, and that's why we have a very fine line to tread when it comes to the geopolitical issues, and then especially the West Philippine Sea. It's a very fine line that we have to tread. And I think the best guide will always have to be what is in the interests of the Philippines.
This is a question from Sandra Aguinaldo of GMA7. What is the role? I have also the same question to you, actually. What will be the role of your wife, Attorney Lisa Araneta, in your campaign?
My campaign?
Ako naman, in your administration.
Well, we're in the middle of the campaign. She plays a very big part in the campaign. She's about the best organizer that I know She knows how to put a group, a team together, find good people, put them in the right place. You know, all of these motivate them properly, and she's been doing. She's always been good at that, and so that in the campaign, that's the role that she plays now.
In your administration, that's my question. What will be her role?
In the administration, I don't think my wife will want to be in government. That's for sure.
But you said she's a best talent scout, and you need the best people in your administration if you win.
She has to agree.
Diba? Sabi mo nga, she's the best talent scout.
She's not much for the public life. I don't think she will find something to do. She's one of those. She's one of those people that do. She cannot around and things. She's always doing something, and she will find something to do to help. When I was governor, she stopped practicing. Because she said it's improper for the wife of the governor to continue to practice in the province because, you know, there will be influence peddling and all of these other issues that she just didn't want to be part of. So she went to teach. Nagturo siya ng law. She taught in one of the law schools. And then one time, I came back from visiting the provincial jail, and I mentioned to her, I said, you know, half of these people should not be in jail. They just don't have representation. And they started giving them legal advice and free legal advice, and that's one thing that she was able to do. Marami siyang natulungan that way. Maybe something in that
Yes.
sense. But in an appointed position, ay nako. If I even propose it. If I even propose it, she will run in the other direction, I think.
Anyway, the first lady has no funds, has no budget, has no office, and the past presidents a few of them were thinking about giving an office. Even the senators, some lawmakers they've been thinking with that idea. Give the first lady an office, a budget, so she can help the president in her office, especially in social welfare and others.
Well, I'll tell you what her opinion is. Not necessarily. Said, ikaw lang naman ang hinalal hindi ako eh.
Okay.
They didn't elect me to anything. They elected you. So you go and do your work. They didn't elect me. So I have to, you know, it's presumptuous of me to go in there and say, this is what I will do, and that's what I will do. Ganon ang thinking niya.
Okay, by the way, should you win the presidency, you have an incumbent sister as a senator, and should your son, Sandro, wins in the 1st District of Ilocos Norte, you will might and likely face new accusations of re-establishing the Marcos political dynasty.
Well, you cannot stop people from wanting to serve. Aimee wants to serve. I want to serve. Sandro, my son, wants to serve. What will I tell them? No, don't help.
And they were elected.
Exactly. Kung binoto naman ng tao, they deserve to be in wherever they are. So, you know, the idea of political dynasties, I think again, to go back to what you and I just said, is that it's very clear that the political dynasties have there's a very good system or process to mitigate the overstaying, let's say, of political dynasties, and it's called an election. How many large political dynasties have we seen who have been there for 2 generations, maybe more, na bumaliktad, na nawala, dahil ayaw na ng tao, or whatever, may nagkamali, or whatever it is. So, nawawala. So there's the election. Besides, why should I may not be allowed to work, she does very good work. Marami siyang nagagawa. Marami siyang naitutulong. Why? Why?
She
Because
was teasing you. She was teasing you. Hindi naman teasing, but defending actually you. My brother is not duwag. My brother is not duwag. On the debate. How do you?
No, that's her idea. But again, you know, when it comes to when it comes to political, let me also say now, since we talked already about the amendment of the Constitution, the term limits makes political dynasties. Because pag yung mayor ako, 9 years na ako, patapos na ako, okay? Pero hawak ko pa rin yung bayan. At marami pa akong gusto gawin. Patatakbuhin yung asawa, patatakbuhin yung anak, patatakbuhin yung pinsan, tapos siya tatakbong vice mayor. Yan na. Eto na. Dynasty na. That plays a large part of it. Even in the people have been talking recently, and I happen to agree about how the party list system has been abused. The term limits have something to do with that. Kasi mag-create tayo ng party list system, ng party list para sa atin, para congressman pa rin ako. Di ba? Total, patatakbuhin ko yung governor, yung vice ko, or yung anak ko, or yung whatever, ayan na. So, here we go again. So, we have to look at the unintended consequences of some of the provisions in the Constitution, and what was the intent. And then the whole concept of political dynasties has not really been properly defined. Define to me what is the political dynasty. So, let's say, by name, we'll start. Pare-pareho ang apelyido. O, hindi na pwede. Kailangan isa lang ang tatakbo. O patakbuhin ko yung partner ko sa negosyo. Pero hawak ko yan. Sumusunod sa akin yan. Is that part of the political dynasty? O yung kapitbahay ko na napakalapit sa akin, na mahal ko, na mahal ako, patatakbuhin ko, kasama ba sa political dynasty? Yung driver ko, patakbuhin ko ng barangay captain, political dynasty ba yun? So, where does it end?
Yeah. Ay tatanong ko lang sa iyo, sir. Did Sandro decided on his own, or were he influenced by you, or somebody prodded him?
Well, I made a very distinct promise to my children, is that I will not force you to go into politics. I will not force you to go into any line of work. All I'm asking you is that whatever you decide to do it well, do it properly. We will be here. Your parents, your family will be here to support you in anything you choose to do. So it was his decision. It was not, and you know, and we sat him down and I explained to him, alam mo, mahirap ang buhay ng politiko, hindi yan pa easy. No? If you're having an easy time of politics, you're not doing it right. You're not doing your work. Dapat nahirapan ka. And he understands that. And he understands that. It's good that he worked abroad for a while. So he's very well trained. He's very maayos siya magpatakbo. So he's ready. And then when he sort of was thinking about it, I said, well, the best thing, if you're really thinking about it properly, the best thing I can do for you is to train you properly. So if you should win, if you run and win, then you'll be ready. So nagtrabaho siya kay majority floor leader, si Congressman Romualdez, for 2.5 years. He was working in the House. He's been working in the House for 2.5 years. He knows all the congressmen. He knows all of the staff in the House. He knows how things work. So I think he'll be prepared if he should be successful.
Ang tawag doon, on-the-job training. And speaking of the youth, sir, how would the BBM presidency reach out with the education community, especially institutions like the UP, Ateneo, the LSU that have publicly came out with alleged anti-Marcos revising the Philippine history during his late father's martial law rule?
Well, let's open the discussion. You know, we keep getting accused of revising history. Show me.
Yes.
Show me where we said something that didn't actually happen.
Okay. Ako naman to personal question.
It's not really a comment on revision. It's a political position. So we'll have to deal with that.
Ako kasama ako sa magtatanong na to. How would the BBM presidency treat the adversarial criticisms from the press?
Then you listen to them. Sometimes they're right.
And no lockdown, no shutdown of the press, critical press.
Kuminsan tama eh. Alam mo, yung mga sabihin natin kalaban ko sa politika, marami, yung iba talagang may nasasabing tama eh. So, pakinggan mo. Ay, yung
Pero
iba,
may dalawang presidente na nag-file ng libel suit while incumbent while sitting filing libel
well,
suit.
iba naman yung libel. Yung libel is that yung talagang gusto mo lang saktan. Or you're lying. The truth is not a defense, remember, in libel.
Yes.
So, in other words, gusto mo lang saktan. You're just trying to demean a person for whatever reason. That's a different thing. But if somebody says, I seriously disagree with you, and these are the reasons why, and they're rightly said, you learn something. You learn something.
Okay. Are you still courting President Duterte to endorse you? What's the latest response?
I don't know if you could call it actively courting, but we are hoping that he will come out with an endorsement, endorsing at least to solidify and to unite the administration side of the political aisle before the election. So, tingnan natin. Ano mo naman si Pangulo is he likes to keep everybody on their toes. So, I think that's what's happening now.
Are you not worried by his latest statements that as much as he would like, sana daw, he prefers a lawyer and with compassion? Are you not worried about that?
No. That's what he thinks. Because he is a lawyer, and I'm sure he found the fact that he was a lawyer, that he found that his legal training to be of use to him, and that's why he's saying that. But it's not necessarily the case also. Pero marami pang ibang sinabi ni si Pangulo. Yun ang sinasabi ko.
May letter O ang pangalan.
Yun, may mga ganun. Alam mo naman si PRRD, talagang let's just say he's a very seasoned politician.
Eto sir, how would will the Philippines return to the International Criminal Court? How would the BBM presidency treat the alleged crimes against humanity being probed against his soon-to-be predecessor at Malacanang?
Well, if we're talking about the specific case of the against Duterte, actually.
Yes.
Well, I have real problems there in terms of jurisdiction and sovereignty. Why would we need someone to investigate something that's happening someone from outside to investigate what's happening in the Philippines? As I understand it, their existence is to provide a legal system when there is no legal system in a country. Let's say may guerra, or let's say they're in complete, the government's completely dysfunctional, or whatever, for whatever reason. We have a judiciary. We have a police force, and they're perfectly capable of investigating any of this. So again, where does that jurisdiction come from? And the questions of sovereignty. Why will you? So what? Nag-imbestiga sila. May findings sila. Ano, uutusan tayo kung ano yung gagawin natin?
Yes. Along the same lines, sir, will you return to the BFA and respect the MDP with the U.S.?
With the DFA and the
Visiting Forces Agreement and the Mutual Defense Treaty, are you going to pursue? Yes.
Yeah, we will continue. Sure, of course. Those are advantageous to both countries. We will those traditional
allies.
Shall we say, not traditional but long-standing alliances have been good for the country. And of course, we will, as time goes on, it evolves. The VFA, as it was first signed, is not the same one that we have now. we will evolve according to time, according to the developments here around the world.
I know you are very busy. Last Sunday, you were in Las Piñas. Talagang sarado ang traffic sa Las Piñas.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Pasensya na.
Hindi, okay lang. Pero magmo-motorcade pa ba kayo, sir? Dahil may oil price crisis tayo. Do you intend to cut down on those motorcades to less than... Kasi dapat lahat, no? Hindi lang ikaw, no? Dapat kayong lahat. Kasi lahat naman nagmo-motorcade, eh.
That's a good question, actually. Maybe it really depends on people if they're still willing to come out. Kung siya sabihin lang masyado nang mahal ng gasolina, masyado nang mahal ng crude, sige, huwag na. May ipit pa kayo, mahirapan pa kayo. Well, we don't, can I explain something about the caravans?
Yes,
the caravans, we are invited to the caravans. We don't organize them.
Ah, okay.
It's not up to, we don't organize the caravans. Nagsimula yan, yung mga rider lumapit sa amin, that was last, November pa, na nagsasabi, gusto namin mag-caravan. Sabi ko, huwag kayo mag-caravan, nakakahiya dahil hirap ang tao ngayon, tapos nandun tayo, mag-ano na lang kayo, mag-tree planting na lang kayo, o pumunta kayo sa maglinis kayo, ng basura. And they all said, well, yeah, pero gusto pa rin namin mag-caravan. Wala naman kaming magawa dahil wala namang hinihingi sa amin. So sabi ko, sige, kung pwede ka bang pumunta? Yun ang nangyayari. That's what happens. Yung rally, amin yun.
Okay.
Sabi,
sir,
magkakaraban na rin. Ikaw, magkakaraban na rin. Kaya kung makita mo yung caravan namin, walang prepared na placard. Yung nakasulat lahat.
Oh, yes.
Mano-mano lang yung kanilang mga
lahat
ginagawa.
Yung mga color uniform.
Tapos gagawa sila, lalabas nila yung mga libro ng tatay ko, yung mga picture ng, pati si Sandro, may picture na ngayon. So we don't organize the caravans. We are invited to them. And that's why it's really unusual. I've never seen it before. Na kami pa ang iniimbita, hindi kami sila nag-organize. At kahit kung maalala mo, maraming caravan nangyari, wala kami.
Okay.
Maraming caravan nangyari, marami all around the country. Nung nauso yung caravan, naglabasan, gumawa na sila ng caravan. Kung minsan sabay-sabay nga, 3. So isa lang yung mapuntahan ko. But tinutuloy talaga nila. And that's because it's their caravan. And it's their expression of support. Kaya it's very, very, for me, it's more meaningful than a motorcade that I myself organized.
Sir, please indulge me. May magandang question lang dito from our listener, kay Marian. Yung about sa COVID, how can we get these companies, private companies, investors, to come here to the Philippines to help in our pandemic preparedness and offering jobs for Filipinos in the process? Kasi yung Moderna and BioNTech daw are establishing offices in Southeast Asia, such as Singapore, Malaysia, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. Pero sa Pilipinas, wala. How would you try to convince them? And how will you strengthen the local governments to provide more quality healthcare and provide subsidized or even free medicines or vaccines to their constituents?
I think it applies not only to the drug companies, not only to pharma, but it also applies to all investors, especially those who actually bring capital, hindi yung hot money na pasok labas, yung actually bringing capital to invest in the Philippines. And when we talk to the prospective investors, not only foreign but even the local. The thing that always comes up, the price of electricity,
energy.
Number 1, and number 2 is the ease of doing business. I have many friends who go to Vietnam, and they say, I talked to somebody over dinner. In the morning, ando na yung assistant niya, pipirma ako ng 8 papel, tapos na. May kumpanya na ako, may pwede na ako magpatakbo. Dito sa Pilipinas, di ganun. And in terms of ease of doing business, we are not doing very well. So that's something that we have to look at, and we have to do something about. And that means we have to really have a more meritocratic bureaucracy. Okay, political appointments are fact of life. but nonetheless, the main bulk, the main body of our civil service should be competent, should be well-trained, and should be in their positions because of merit. And kasi isipin mo, you're talking to a big pharma. These are mga genius ito, mga ito, mga expert ito, mga ito. Sa kakausap, hindi naiintindihan yung gustong gawin. PPP na lang. Private-public partnerships. Di ba? Hindi tayo makabuo dahil hindi maintindihan ng mga marami tayong rules, di ba? There's like in PPP, it's very simple. COA doesn't understand a qualitative assessment. It's all quantitative. Just go for the cheapest. And of course, it's the lousiest, right?
Lowest cost.
Yeah, and PPPs don't work that way. PPPs work in another way. So if they're going to hope for that, you have to be able, the government has to play its part. And the government first has to understand what the concept is, and then they have to understand how to make it happen. So yes, it is really up to us to do something about the price of energy, number one, and number two, the ease of doing business, and things like what they call legislative guarantees. Now, in the middle of a big project, the law will change.
Okay.
That affects their project, and they say,
Yes.
we cannot pull out anymore, but if we're not going to make money anymore, we don't want to do this anymore, gulo, gulo, gulo. So those kinds of things. Or every administration, new administration, the policy changes. So sasabihin, ayaw na namin, pero hindi na kami makaalis dahil may kontrata tayo. Malulugi lang kami. So look at all the other companies watching. We're not going there. Now, that can happen to us. Ba't pa tayo pupunta riyan?
Okay, my last question definitely. After going through my grilling and the questions of the other media, my friends in media sa Capias Manila Bay, will you still attend or change your mind to attend a presidential debate? If you can hack it with me, why can't with your rivals?
Well, if we have the thing that's happened here in this campaign, dumami ang debate. Everybody
parang hindi debate eh. Ba't ni-interview ko lang?
Isa pa yun. Pero ang dami-daming debate. Dati, isa lang, COMELEC. So yun ang pupuntahan namin lahat. Okay? So, pagka tingnan mo, ang dami nating napag-usapan.
Yes.
We went into detail. Kulang pa ito, marami tayong pwedeng pag-usapan.
Yes,
we were able to get into some detail. Now, sasabihin, give me your policy on agriculture. They'll do it in 1.5 minutes. How can you do that? Number one. Yeah. Okay, so the format sometimes is problematic, but that's okay. But if there are so many debates, pare-pareho na yung tanong. We're not getting anywhere anymore. And if it's going to be that way, na pare-pareho na lang, and then wala, it gets personal, it gets what use is that to anyone? So if there is a way that that the debate will be actually productive, constructive, that we can talk about policy, we can argue, we can debate as a proper debate, then fine, I would go. But if we are going to repeat the same thing, I'd rather campaign. We lost 21 days of campaigning in January. So right now, naghahabol tayo. Naghahabol kami sa schedule namin. We're trying to catch up with what we missed for that 21 days we were supposed to go out January 3. Wala, nag-Omicron. Hindi kami makalabas ng ilang araw. Everybody was sick, everybody was exposed, everybody was isolated. So wala kami magawa. So nawala yung oras na yun. Kaya humahabol kami dyan ngayon. Kung tatanong mo sa akin, mas importante ba para sa akin, it's my own opinion, mas importante ba yung pagpunta, makipag-usap sa mga local leader, makipag-usap sa mga sectoral leaders, na sasabihin anong mga hinain ninyo, ano yung panghamban ninyo, ano yung mga iniisip ninyo. If that's more important than debate, I say yes, it is.
And being the front running, ikaw talaga ang igagang up ng the 9 others, kasi 10 kayo, Is that what you really fear also?
No, that's okay. I mean, I've been answering this. That's another thing. I've been answering these questions for 35 years. Why do I have to answer them again? And nothing's going to change. Their opinions are not going to change. My opinion is not going to change. Why are we doing this again? Let's talk about the present and let's talk about the future, because that is what is on people's minds. Not people are worried. What is our life going to be? What are you going to do for us? What will you do that will help my life, that will help the school of my child, of my prospects in my job, all of these things. That's what people are worried about. So if we will talk about that, then that's good, that's fine, well and good. But be given also a chance to talk about it in detail. Because madali mag-motherhood statements, magawa tayo maraming trabaho. Hindi, lahat ng kurap, ikukulong natin. Walang silbi yun eh. It doesn't really help.
Yes.
So, you know.
I was tempted to ask you kanina yung may sinabi kang 5-year vision, 10-year vision. Naku, baka humaba ng humaba. I will just ask you a copy of your 5-year vision and 10-year vision. Sabi mo na nasa platforma mo naman. And this is the first time I heard about it.
Yeah. Well, no, you have to have, because you have to have the direction eh. Sasabi, gusto kong pakapunta doon. Doon po, iyan ang gusto nating iabot. In this sector, sana in 5 years time, 3 years time, whatever it is, nandyan na tayo. O paano natin gagawin? O dito sa ganito. Pero ano bang overall plan natin? Ano ba yung talagang ifo-focus natin? Ano ba yung medyo mas mababang priority? O sino ngayon, yan, there it comes, sino ilalagay natin ngayon dyan?
Yes.
Sinong may kaya dyan, sino nakakaintindi. So, but you have to have, if you don't have a direction, di pa ganun ka lang. You build this road, you build the other road there. Tapos, baka, walang plano eh. Kailangan may plano. And hindi ka magkakaroon ng plano kung wala kang direksyon, wala kang iniisip na dapat diyan ang abutin natin in a certain time. Give yourself a timetable, give yourself a deadline, but give yourself, most importantly, a direction, a plan.
Yes. On that note, I would like to ask our very good Senator Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr., or BBM for short, to give his message to the public and to the rest of the Philippines. Sir.
Well, first of all, congratulations again on this 7th year kapihan sa Manila Bay and the service that you provide in terms of news, opinion, current on the current events in our country. Not only political, but all of the other things. Sa ating mga kababayan, papatuloy po namin ang UNITEAM, kami ni Inday Sara, kami ng aming mga kandidato na senador, papagpatuloy po namin na ikakalat at isigaw ang aming adhikain ng pagkakaisa. Dahil ito po ay sa aming palagay, sa aming tapat na paniniwala na ang pagkakaisa ay ang unang hakbang para tayo ay makabalik sa mas magandang buhay. Kaya samahan niyo po kami at samahan niyo po itong naming sinimulaan na kilusan ng pagkakaisa para pagandahin po natin ang buhay ng bawat mamamayang Pilipino, pagandahin natin ang Pilipinas.
On that note, I would like to thank Senator Bongbong Marcos and Godspeed and stay COVID-free. I know you got sick with COVID in the past. And my regards to the rest of the family and God bless.
Salamat, Marichu. Thank you very much at maraming salamat.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you,
po.
sir. Opo.